In today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different and take a look at a new washing machine that I've bought. It's definitely not going to be the most exciting video in the world, but I've done a couple of home appliance things before, so I thought I may as well do a video on it. In particular because I couldn't really find many reviews of this particular model, so I thought it might be worth putting something out there. So yeah, finally got around to replace my old washer dryer. It was like an ancient Whirlpool one that I think's original to the building, so it's about 10 years old, and it was definitely a very low-end model when it was new, and it's just started playing up. So I finally decided to replace it. Now, I'm not a home appliance expert, so I just sort of end up asking around for other people's opinions and looking at stuff online, and settled on this machine here from Samsung. So this particular machine is the Series 5 Plus washer dryer, and it has a full model number of WD90 T534DBN. Samsung's product line is a bit confusing in the sense it's organised into different series, but within each series there's various different machines with some with slightly differing specs, but that's the model I've gone for here. This seems like a fairly decent mid to high end machine from them. It's got all the features that I would really want, such as variable temperature drying, an inverter motor so it's quieter, stuff like that. It's got additional smart stuff like Wi-Fi and app control, which I don't really need, but it just has it. You know, all the higher end machines tend to have that nowadays. And I was really just looking for a decent quality washer dryer that would be reliable, it would take decent sized loads and stuff like that. So what we're going to do in this video is take this out of the box, disconnect my old machine, and set the new machine up. And then what I'll do is I'll go away for a while, use it off camera for a good period of time, and I'll come back with a review. So yeah, I'm not an appliance expert, just for people that are finding this video looking for this particular machine and looking for reviews of it. But I thought it'd be good to give my opinion as just an average consumer who needs a washing machine they're going to use, not someone who's going to dive in huge amounts of details and into all different stuff, comparing it to hundreds of different models. Really just me buying this and going, is it good? Does it do the job? So yeah, time to get this out of the box and then disconnect the old machine. So there we go, that's it all unpacked. And this machine weighs an absolute ton, and it's way deeper than the old one as well. So if your delivery company did what mine did and asks if you want to put it in a different room, don't do what I did and just say, oh, leave it in the hall, it's fine, because I'm regretting that now, because now I've got to move this to the kitchen and it's going to weigh an absolute ton. I've ended up having to put little bits of cardboard under the feet just because that's the only bit it'll slide across the carpet. So yeah, going to be a bit of a challenge to wrestle this through to the kitchen, but just need to wrestle that through and get the new one in. So before I do that, we'll quickly go and disconnect the old machine, and then we'll fit the new one. Okay, so here we have the old machine, so all we need to do now is disconnect it and take it out, and then get the new one in. Okay, so here we are under the sink where we need to disconnect it. And yep, I know the pipework under here is an absolute disaster. This is all original from the house builders. It's, you know, literally pipes that are just literally hanging by their own weight. It's absolutely horrific. But what we've got here is we've got this sort of appliance T here. Originally this was just like a single valve that went to a single appliance connector for the washing machine. But when I finished the dishwasher a couple of years ago, I just replaced it with this one that goes to single pipe in with a sort of standard compression fitting, isolation valve, and then two appliance connectors. It was just a really easy way to sort of adapt this to fit two appliances. So all I need to do is I need to turn this off, which will turn off water to both appliances, so won't have a dishwasher until I get the new machine in, but that's fine. And then I can unscrew the washing machine on this side here, hiding right behind that pipe. Remove this connection, and that'll disconnect the washing machine, and presumably have loads of water pour out from those two pipes. And then for the drain, that's going to be probably actually easier. That's just this here. It just pushes on to this sort of the peg that sticks out. It seems to be quite stuck on there because it's probably been stuck on there for the last 10 years. So I'll need to try and get that out. But yep, get that off, get it disconnected there, try and not soak myself, and get the machine out. Cool, so that's then both disconnected. I've just disconnected the water piece from there. That's it now hanging down here. And then I couldn't get this drain pipe to pull off of the sort of spigot that sticks out here. It's totally stuck on there, so I've just unscrewed the whole thing and hopefully I can force it off once the whole thing's out the cupboard. But yeah, that's now all disconnected, so now it's just time to pull the machine out. Okay, so that's the machine all disconnected and unplugged, so there's just a socket under there that powers it, just an unswitched socket that's switched from above the worktop. And that's all disconnected and pulled out. The only thing I had to do was get a little bit brutal with this drain pipe, because I could not for the life of me get this piece to pull out, and that obviously needs to go back onto my drain pipe sort of assembly under the sink. So I ended up just actually cutting this with a Stanley knife and just basically forcing it out. If I was reusing the machine, I could have probably ended up like just trying a bit harder, but it was pushed so far in there, and the machine's getting recycled anyway, so there's no point spending time trying to fix it. The machine's knackered anyway. So yeah, this needs a good clean because it's pretty disgusting, but yep, at least I was able to liberate that. So yeah, now it's time to lug this thing all the way through the hallway and get the new machine in. Okay, so I've now finally moved the machine into the kitchen. That was an absolute mission, and it was the absolute tightest it could fit through every door. So I did manage to get it through, but if my doors were any narrower, I wouldn't be able to get it in. And I've removed the old machine, so there's now obviously the big gap behind it there, under the worktop. So now we can get the new one in. So I've removed all the tape from it just to get it a bit neater. And if you look inside, we can see there's a lot of additional accessories. So I was worried because I couldn't actually see where these were, but they're hidden inside the drum. So in here, you get a sort of just some paperwork, energy stickers, that sort of boring stuff there. But probably more importantly, you get this additional pack of accessories. So look what you get in here. You get the water feed hose, because that wasn't attached to the back. The drain hose is attached to the back. You get a elbow for the drain hose to sort of hold it at an angle if you need to hook it into a sort of standpipe. I don't have a standpipe, so I don't need that. And then you get a spanner. So I'll get this all out and we'll take a look at what we get. Okay, so that's easier now, I've got it out of the bag. But yeah, you get the water feed hose, you get sort of angle for the drain pipe, and you get a spanner with some caps. And these are very, very important. And they're for removing and covering the holes from the transport bolts. When you get a washing machine delivered, it has transport bolts in the back. These basically hold the drum in position so that when it's being transported, the drum can't wobble around. It can rotate, but it can't sort of wiggle back to front, like a washing machine drum would. So it's absolutely crucial that you remove them, because if you forget to remove them, you potentially run a washing machine with the drum held in place, and that doesn't generally go well. Now, concerningly with this, there's not actually much in the way of a warning. There's this sort of sticker on the top, which obviously says remove the transport bolts, but I mean, it's not very significant. That's the sort of level of instructions I would absolutely just ignore and not actually read. I would have much rather actually had a big orange sticker on it that said, remove transport bolts, do not forget. So yeah, in fact, before this got delivered, I suddenly remembered that I needed to remove the transport bolts when it arrived. So I went and got my socket set and put it next to where the machine's going, so I would see that I had to remove the transport bolts because I could forget. So yeah, we need to go and remove them. That should be pretty easy to do. We come around the back of the machine here and get everything caught on the machine. We can see around the back here, we have these transport bolts. So there's one here, one over here, one there, and then two further ones down the bottom. So what we need to do is use the spanner to remove these. Use it seemingly with the wrong size of spanner. What? Yeah, so you need to use the sort of inner bit of the spanner. Okay, fine, whatever. And then remove those transport bolts. And then once we've got all these out, we put those little black caps in to fill the gaps. Okay, so I've already removed one, so I'll remove the other one on camera. It's a little bit fiddly, but you basically need to unscrew all that. The included spanner works, or obviously you could use something better if you needed to. So keep undoing that until that's undone. And then once it's undone, you pull that, and this whole thing comes out. So it's got this big sort of plastic assembly on it as well, that also obviously goes to the drum or something. So that needs to come out as well. And then, yeah, you get your transport bolts out. So I think 3 of those to do more, 3 more to do, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so that's all the transport bolts now removed. So I've got these little caps, these 5 little caps, and these just go into the holes that the transport bolts came out of. So from there, and then that should just push in there and just clip in. Relatively pointless, I don't feel like you really need that, but I suppose if it looks a bit nicer, may as well have them. This definitely isn't easy holding a massive camera, so I'll probably go and do this off camera, but yeah, these little caps just need to clip into that hole there. Okay, so all the caps are now in, sort of in there. And then the final cap was this one here that I couldn't quite work out what it was for, but it's because the plug has this little indent that goes into there. So when you take the plug out, this little cap fills that hole as well. I don't know why you really need the caps, because it's on the back of the machine, unless it's some sort of maybe a regulation that you're not allowed to have holes that you could stick a finger into the machine or something. Must be something like that, but yeah. Also quite amusing, this machine has a little sort of happy guy on the back. It's quite amusing. But yeah, that's all those caps now in. So what I now need to do is, well, get this pushed under the cabinet, plugged into the wall, and then feed these pipes into the cupboard, and I can connect all the pipes up. Almost forgot, the final thing I need to do before I push it under is to attach the water supply hose. So it's got an angled end and then a sort of straight through normal end. So the angled end goes onto the back of the machine, and that just literally needs to just screw on there. So that should be relatively easy to do. And then we get it pushed under the cabinet. Why is nothing ever simple? When I was making this video, I thought, why am I even filming this? Like, I'm just fitting a washing machine, it's not that exciting. And of course, I've had a problem. So remember when I mentioned that it has, like, this machine's the absolute maximum depth I can fit under my cabinet. Like, this is the exact same depth. And then remember when I pointed out it had this cute little happy guy on the back? Well, this little happy guy is actually infuriating because his face sticks out slightly, which is sort of counted into Samsung's measurements. But what I didn't account for is that this little guy's face is the exact same height as the plug behind the machine. So with that plug there, it sticks out a few centimetres, it hits the little guy's face, and then it means I can't push the machine all the way back. So that is absolutely infuriating. So, yeah. Oh god. So what I'm going to have to do here, I think, is, thankfully all the cables run down the wall, like from the ceiling. So what I'm going to have to do, basically, is move that socket higher up the wall, so that instead of being down there where the face is, it kind of sits in here somewhere, and that way the plug will sit further back. So it's fine. I just wasn't expecting to have to, you know, change the mains wiring to fit the washing machine because of that slight issue. I mean, to be fair, Samsung, the face isn't like a decorative part. I hope not anyway. I think it is just like a raised part for like the drum or something that sticks out there. So it's not like it's actually, you know, totally pointless and therefore just causing this issue. The face is obviously essential, but yeah, it's just the height is just really infuriatingly bad luck. So yeah, time to now go and move that socket higher up the wall and then hopefully get the machine in. Okay, so I've now moved the socket up the wall. This is definitely way more effort than it should really be to replace a washing machine, but, well, all my projects tend to grow arms and legs when I try them. But yeah, I've just moved that socket higher up the wall, basically as high as I could, and that's definitely helped. With the plug in the higher position there, I can move the machine about 15mm deeper into the cabinet than I could before, which doesn't sound like much, but because this machine's so deep, that's the difference between it looking, you know, okay, and looking absolutely ridiculous like it's sticking out into the room. So that's definitely helped. I've also tested, and I'm with just pushing it back without the plug in at all, and I can maybe get it about 4mm deeper into the cabinet without the plug in at all. So it still is hitting the plug. But what that means is, what I can probably do here is that that's just a standard MK Logic Plus socket. It's about 9mm deep, or maybe 7mm. But if I took that out and put, say, a flat plate metal one in, that would maybe be 1 or 2mm thick, that would give me that extra 4mm back. And then that would get me about, in, say, 19mm deeper than I could originally. So I'm not going to bother for now just because it's late. I just need the thing to work, and that's the only socket I've got. But in the future, if I'm doing work in the kitchen, I could always replace that socket with a flat plate one and get the machine just, you know, a few mil deeper into the cabinet. But yeah, that's definitely done. So at least now I can move the machine back, because I was worried, because I was thinking if I couldn't move, if I moved the socket up and it still was causing issues, it wasn't helping, I don't know what I'd have to do. I'd have to probably join the cable here, bring the cable out on the surface, and then put the socket in the cupboard or something, and that was going to grow arms and legs. But yeah, at least that's there now. So what I can now do, I'm going to push the machine back, get the pipes fed up into the cabinet. So I've already got the sort of draw wire tied onto this pipe here just to help me pull it in, and then connect the pipes up, and hopefully I can finally get the thing working. Okay, and the machine's finally in. That was an absolute nightmare. I was just expecting just to push it in and plug it in, it'd all be fine, but nope, I had to do all that. But it's done now. So that's in there, and now I've got the two pipes pushed into the cupboard. So the drain comes over the top here, and I'm just going to push that onto this sort of spigot that sticks out here. That's relatively easy. And then for the water pipe, what I ended up doing is actually bringing it down and up through that hole there where the water pipe comes out. That was not an existing hole. And then I'll bring it up and onto the connector in there. That just seems safer. If I'm bringing it over the top, it was kinking, so that seemed a bit easier. And yeah, I know the plumbing under here is in an absolute state. This was not my work. This is why I have trust issues and end up doing everything myself, because this was apparently done by a professional. So yeah, this all needs redone. But eventually I'll probably end up taking all this out and redo it. I'm probably going to get a new kitchen sink at some point, so I'll do it at that time. But yeah, time to connect those two pipes and then finally turn the thing on. Okay, so that's plumbing all now connected. So if you look under there, you can see you've got the drain connected there, and then probably hard to get the camera in, but the water is also connected on there. And I've turned the water on and nothing's leaked or exploded yet, so that's a good sign. So all we need to do now is turn the mains onto the washing machine. So that's this grid switch over here. So we turn the washing machine on, see what happens. So nothing yet, so hopefully I just need to turn it on. So it's a power switch here, let's see what happens. It worked, and it's musical. So, yep, pick the English language. Oh, tap 0 there. The phone going off. Empty drum before calibrating. Now hold on to start calibration. Fine. Okay, so now it's apparently fine tuning the drum. There's water running, I think. I think it's pumping out more than sucking in. Don't know. Well, I guess what we do now is we wait, and then hopefully I have a working washing machine and I don't end up in like a flood of water. But in the meantime, we can do the satisfying thing of finally peel the film off the front, because I've been waiting to do that until I got it in. There we go. So now we wait. Hopefully it'll work. Okay, so that's all now installed and working. And it's now been a couple of months since I first fitted it, so I've used it quite a lot, so I'm quite experienced with it, so we can talk about my experience of it. But now it's all in, first of all do a quick tour of the product, show you around the washing machine, and then we'll turn it on and I'll talk about the interface, and then I'll talk about my impressions. But overall it looks quite neat. It is quite large and it does maybe stick out a little bit, but I'm kind of used to it now, and I do really like how it looks. My only real complaint is just that it tends to attract a lot of dust. It's very staticky plastic, especially on the drum. Like if you run your hand, you can almost feel the static. So it tends to just like attract any dust in the room to stick to it, so you have to constantly clean it. But apart from that, it's fine. So to give a quick tour around it, on the top you've got the drawer we'll take a look at, because this is quite interesting on this machine. You then got a display here, which you'll see later when we turn it on, but it's just a little LCD or OLED display that can display graphics and text. And then a few 7-segment readouts for things like the temperature, number of rinse cycles, and spin speed. All the controls are done through these little touch buttons. So there's little touch sensitive buttons all around the display, here and here, and you sort of just touch them to turn it on, their capacitive touch. And there's a big knob here that lets you scroll through cycles on the display. Drums in here, very self-explanatory. It's nice and large, got loads of space in it, feels really smooth inside, so that's good, it's not going to damage clothes or anything. It's kind of interesting that obviously the door is absolutely huge compared to the actual size of the drum, but I think that's just a sort of style trend nowadays. Lots of machines are like that. But yeah, seems to work pretty well. And then up here we've got the detergent drawer. And this is quite interesting on this model, so we'll go in closer and take a look. So now here we have the detergent drawer. And on most washing machines this is very self-explanatory. But if we open this one up, it has a little locking mechanism underneath. You'll see this one looks a little bit different. And that's because this particular model is their, what do they call it, auto dose model. So whereas in most machines you have a couple of compartments, you have one for the sort of normal detergent, one for like the pre-wash, I think, or rinse. I'm not an expert. But you have a couple of compartments to put your detergent in. This is a bit different. You've got this compartment here labelled manual detergent, so you can use that like a conventional one where you put your liquid or powder in there and it just washes it into the cycle when it needs it. But it also has these two different auto dispensers labelled auto softener and auto detergent. And these are little tanks. So if we open these up like that, put that somewhere because it's covered with stuff, you can see in here we have a little tank with detergent in it and softener in it. And it holds quite a bit. So what you do is you fill these up, and then when you run the cycle, the machine just automatically adds in the correct amount. And you can configure it in the settings. You can go in and say, do you want small, low, medium, or high amounts of detergent and softener? You can configure them independently of each other. And I was a bit unsure about that at first, but I thought it'd be quite fun to try out. And actually, I really like it. Like, it's not a massive time saver, but it is quite nice just being able to throw things in the machine, turn it on, run a cycle, and it just works. And you don't need to worry about pouring detergent into little cups like that and putting it in the drum and stuff, and then inevitably finding that little cup stuck down a trouser leg later on. You just kind of put the washing in, switch it on, and it works. My only fear is that I'm going to get used to this, end up staying somewhere without a machine like this, and end up washing clothes without detergent because I forget to put it in. But it does work pretty well. It also does have some sort of level monitoring. So when it is running low, it does flash up on the screen saying what's low. So it'll either say detergent and softener low if they're both low, or if only one's low, it'll tell you what one you need to refill. And then to refill it, it's dead easy. You basically just take your detergent, just pour it into the appropriate compartment, and then stick the top on. So I actually really like it. It's definitely not for everyone. And obviously, you can't use powders with this, you need to use liquid. And I'm not sure about gels, because I used to use more sort of gel detergent. For this, I've started using the normal liquid stuff, because I don't want to gum up the works on this. But I actually really, really like this feature, because it means that it puts the detergent in during the wash cycle, puts the softener in during the rinse cycle. You don't have to worry about what compartment you have to put things in and get it all right and then put stuff in the drum. You just chuck your washing in, switch it on, and it does it. So, pretty interesting idea. It'll be interesting to see if this catches on. But yeah, I actually quite like it. Yeah, that's the detergent drawer, which is probably the most sort of unique part of this machine, I suppose. So now let's, turn it on, take a look at the interface, and then, make it wash something. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at the user interface. So if we turn it on by holding this button here, it'll turn on. It's very musical. And as you can see there, it's actually warning me that the detergent in the tank's low. That's fine. I mean, I haven't filled it in quite a while, so that'll be why it's doing that. You can, however, dismiss it if it is complaining about that. There's enough in there, it's just a bit low. But what you can now do is it'll display the cycles here, and you can cycle through them using the knob here. It's got a few sensible ones, cotton synthetics mixed, cold, quick wash, and then it starts getting into some that are a little bit weird: shirts, wool, outdoor active wear. Like, I don't know how many of these, like how many ways there is to wash, for example, clothes, like outdoor versus normal clothes. Yeah, it goes into a lot of programs that I'm probably never going to use. I tend to just use cotton synthetics mixed load of the quick wash. But yeah, that's basically how it works. And then once you've picked your cycle, what you can do is you can use these buttons here to configure settings. So that's 60 degrees for the temperature, but you can press the button below it, and that'll cycle through different temperatures. This is the number of rinses. Again, you can cycle and change that. And that's the spin speed, which again, you can change the number of spin or change the spin speed. Then on some of the cycles, but not all of them, you can add a drying cycle. So you can just do a wash here, and then if you go down to the end, there's independent drying cycles. So you can just go like, right, cotton dry, and it'll just dry like a tumble dryer. But if you wanted to do like a wash and dry, which is one of the benefits of a washer dryer, that you can just put it in and forget about it, you can press this button here below the cycle once it's selected, and it'll add a drying cycle. It'll put a little symbol saying like wash and hanger, which is wash and dry, and that's now going to do a drying cycle as well. Weirdly, this doesn't work on all. You can also help do it again, and it'll just do a cotton dry, which I don't know what that means compared to the other drying cycles, but yes. But there's a normal wash. Now, interestingly, this only works for some cycles. So if I put this down to say, I think I worked out for towels, you can't then push that. It won't then let you put a drying cycle onto that, which is a little bit annoying, because the main use I have for the dryer in this is to put towels in and tell it to wash and dry them. So if I want to wash towels, I have to put it on cotton, which is fine. It's a little bit weird, but you can kind of get over it. But yep, so you can put it on cotton there, press that button there, and that'll be wash and dry cotton, and that'll do it. And what you're now seeing is one of the sort of complaints people had in the reviews, but actually it's not as bad as it first looks. And that is the time estimates. You can see here that for a cotton wash and dry, it's estimating 6 hours and 15 minutes, which is a bit ludicrous. Like, most days I don't have that time just to sit and supervise a washing machine. And because I'm the sort of person that's terrified of leaving appliances on when I'm out, there's no chance I'm going to go out with this running. But it's not actually this bad, because I saw a lot of people complaining, it takes 6 hours to do a wash and dry, that's ridiculous. But I don't think these people are either hugely loading the machine up, or they're not actually trying it and timing it. Because what happens when you first put it onto wash, it'll say, and you'll see it in a minute when I run it, it'll say sensing load. And what it'll do is it'll spin the drum back and forward, I think weighing the stuff. I don't know what it does, I don't know if it measures the acceleration or something, but it spins the drum back and forth to sense the load and adjust the time remaining. And almost every time I've done it on a cotton cycle, that will almost always knock off 15 minutes. as long as I've got a sort of reasonably small amount in the machine or a sensible amount in the machine, you know, week's worth of washing, something like that, it'll knock 15 minutes off the wash time immediately. So that for a cotton wash anyway, if you've just checked the time for a wash, that would take it down from 1 hour and 42 minutes to about an hour and a half instantly from when you start the wash cycle. Of course, if it's full, it won't, but you know, a sensible load will take that time off. But then once it's finished washing and goes to start the drying cycle, it does the same thing again. It spins the drum back and forward a little bit, says sensing load on the display, and adjusts the time. And usually from what I found, it can kind of knock a couple of hours off. So if I've put in, say, a bunch of towels or some bedding and told it to do a cotton wash and dry, most of the time I found it to finish in about 4 hours, which is a much more reasonable time. So I think it almost seems like this is like the worst case. It will basically always finish within this time it says, but chances are, if you're not fully loading the machine up, given that this wash and dry is rated for 6 kilograms, chances are it'll actually knock a bit of time off that. It's a little bit confusing because it's a bit tricky to visualize. You know, you'll eventually learn how long it takes, but it's definitely a bit annoying having this display that doesn't actually remotely represent the time. But if you're getting one of these, I suppose what I would do is just use this display here, this time estimate, as like a worst case. You know, if you're putting this on, assume that it might be running for 6 hours. So don't put, you know, bedding in it when you're planning on going to bed in 5 hours, because then it could go wrong. But chances are it will knock a bit of time off. Additionally, once you've got a cycle selected, you can then press this little button on the end, it's like a little hand, and that'll take you into some additional menus. So in here you can change the dry settings. So currently this is a wash and dry cycle. It's just set into auto dry, which will just do an automatic time calculation. But you can press that and actually manually specify a drying time. So you could actually dial in a time to dry, you know, if you don't want it to work out itself, which could be a bit more predictable. You can then enable a pre-wash, enable intensive wash, bubble soak, where basically it soaks it in bubbles for half an hour or something. And this is where you can adjust the dosing. So there's a dose per wash, which is the amount of detergent, and dose per rinse, which is the amount of softener. And in here, you can change that between high, medium, low, and off. So you can actually turn off the detergent or the softener as well. So that's particularly useful for softener, because there's certain things that you're not meant to put softener in, so you can't just turn that off here. It's like with my cycles, I've never looked at that. You can delay the sort of start and end time and stuff and put on a child lock, but yeah, that's basically the whole of the menu. You go through, you pick your cycles like this, you can configure some settings here, enable wash and dry cycles, or you can go into that advanced settings menu and turn on the bubble soak and stuff like that. But generally it's fairly simple. Once you get the hang of it, it's usually okay. But what we'll do to test is then we'll just do a quick wash. I've just got a couple of towels in there. So we can go along here, we'll go 15-minute quick wash, which weirdly takes 18 minutes, but whatever. And then I'll put it up to 30 degrees, which is now estimating 26 minutes, which is again fine. And then to start the cycle, we just hold this play button down here, put 1400 spin speed, just to... Okay, so the quick wash only goes up to 1200 for some reason, fine. But now let's start the cycle. So all we need to do is hold in the play button here, and that'll start. And then because it's a quick wash, it doesn't do the sensing load thing. Had I had on a cotton wash, it would be saying sensing load here, the drum would spin a little bit, and then it would start. But because it's a quick wash, it'll just go for that time. But yeah, that's it now running. And it is quite nice that it gives you a time remaining in a progress bar, because at least if you're just doing a standard wash, once it's done the initial sensing load, this will show an accurate time remaining. And then once it started the drying cycle, after sensing the drying load, then this will be accurate. It's just when it's not sensed it before it's washed it or dried it that you've got that weird time estimate. But yes, that'll sit and wash for 20 minutes. And this is what's really impressed me with this machine though, is how quiet it is. Now, you probably won't pick it up really on this video because I've got a lavalier microphone on, but right now that's spinning the drum, and there is no noise. There's like, the only noise I hear from this really when it's just doing a wash, when it's not doing a spin cycle, is the noise of water flowing into the machine, and the noise of my clothes actually like tumbling around inside the drum. Like right now it's spinning that drum around, and there's absolutely no motor noise whatsoever. The motor is virtually silent. even when it goes up to a fairly high spin speed, you know, most of the noise is coming from things like the machine rattling around in the room or other things in the room rattling. And it will still be loud during a spin cycle. But there's basically no motor noise, which compared to my old machine is huge, because with my old machine, I couldn't sit and watch TV with the kitchen door open because it was so loud just hearing that motor whirring and whirring away, even just when it's just doing a normal wash like this. But this one is basically silent. In fact, for comparison, just because it won't really come across on camera, right now my boiler's clicked on. The boiler is genuinely louder than the motor in this spinning the washing round, which is just mad. So yeah, it is extremely quiet, which is good. But yeah, that's all running there. And yeah, apart from that, yeah, I mean, the washing performance is fine. So yeah, I guess we'll just need to leave this running and, well, have clean towels at the end of it. But yeah, that was a quick look at the machine. And obviously, because it's a Samsung machine, I might not catch it on camera because I'll need to go away and not necessarily sit for this to finish. But yep, when it finishes its cycle, it does play the Samsung washing machine tune, which is quite amusing. Although, also amusingly with mine, I'll put a photo on the screen. I found a typo. When it finishes a cycle, it says, I think it's meant to say AI recommended cycles completed, but it actually says AI recommended cycles completed. Not really a huge problem, but I just find it quite amusing as to how many layers of approval that software's got through with that typo in it to make it onto the machine. But yeah, that's all running. So another thing to note about this machine is that it does have smart functionality, so it can integrate with Samsung's SmartThings platform, you connect it to Wi-Fi and use an app to control it and all that sort of stuff. Now personally, I've got basically zero interest in using that, but it does have it if you want it. For me, I do not like leaving appliances on when I go out. I just don't like it. So there's no real benefit to me having the ability to control this from my phone because I can just come to the machine and do it in front of me. But I'll may as well quickly demonstrate it. So I've got it set up, and that's the SmartThings app on my phone. It's a Samsung phone, so it came built in, but I think you can install it on anything. And yep, you can sort of pick all the programs here, like that. And the way it'll work is you pick the program like that, you can pick your settings, various stuff like that. And then when you press send to washer, you'll see it'll configure the washer like that. And then start it, you press the start button on the machine. So that's one way of doing the smart stuff, where you can configure it from the phone, send the program that you've set to the washer, and press the button on it, which, to be honest, is fairly pointless because you've still got to go to the machine. However, you can set it up to control it remotely. However, there's a slight catch. If you were the sort of person that was comfortable leaving the machine on and then going out, you can't just chuck your washing in and leave without doing any preparation. You need to put the machine into a mode where it's going to be ready to be controlled remotely. So what you do is you turn it on, you put the washing in, and imagine this is like before you're going to work. So you put the washing in the machine. What you then have to do is press this button here, which is like a picture of a phone. If you press that, it then says smart control on, and it locks the door. And now that the door is locked, you can then control it remotely. So now if you open it up in the app, you'll see it's slightly different in that, once it loads up, whereas it previously said send to washer, it now says start. So from here, if I was now to go and pick a cycle, so do the same as one we did before, 50-minute quick wash at 30 degrees, or yeah, 30 degrees, okay. Because I've already pressed this button, when I press start, the machine will start. If you're going to work, you would just leave it sitting in this state. After a while, the screen and everything would go off and it will just leave on like that LED will stay on. But yeah, you do need to do that in advance. But now if you press start, press that, there you go, the machine will start and do its thing as it would do before. But that's just something worth bearing in mind, is that it does have the smart functionality and you can control it remotely over the internet. However, if you're going to do that, you need to at least put the washing in and press that smart control button. So I can see that being a little bit annoying potentially if you were going to want to control it remotely, where you could easily get a situation where you put all your washing in, you go out and you just forget to press that button and you can't start it. So that's just something to bear in mind. But yeah, for people who are interested in it, the smart stuff does work. It does a fancy animation showing the fact it's washing, but it's not something personally that I'm really super interested in, but it does do it, and of course it push notifications when the machine's finished and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that was just sort of a quick look at the smart functionality there. It works, but it's not something I really use myself. So there you go. That was a video of me installing my new washing machine. Little bit eventful with all that stuff around the socket, that was a total pain. But now it's in. As I've mentioned, I'm very happy with it. Definitely quite glad I went for this one. I was a bit torn. I'd never really used a Samsung washing machine before, and I was trying to think, are they worth the sort of hype? Because it seemed to have a little bit of hype over just like a normal appliance. But it does seem really, really good. It's especially how quiet it is. That really impresses me. It makes a huge difference over the old one. The, also does stuff, bit of a gimmick, but actually works really well. And yeah, I don't need all the smart stuff, and the interface is a bit unusual, but yeah, I really can't fault it. I'm very impressed with this washing machine, so yeah, definitely very happy with it. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. And if you're interested in buying this, there's links in the description.